Hey guys, it's Timo, and I'm sitting here on a cloudy, rainy day, and I thought I'd talk about something that is on my mind. So, I recently started playing SHMUPS or STG, and I'm really enjoying my time with the games. As you probably already know, the genre is quite difficult to get into in terms of overall difficulty, although a lot of games have training modes or multiple difficulty settings that you can use to make the entry a little bit easier. Fortunately, there are plenty of ways to start your own personal journey into shmups. Due to its popularity in the 80s and 90s, you can play a lot of retro shmups, but there's also a very wide selection of games on the PC or Nintendo Switch, or also on PS4. But the Nintendo Switch is the system I play most of my games on currently. Coming into the genre, one of my main questions at the beginning was, where do I actually start? What game should I play first? I started researching the latest releases. I was watching a lot of YouTube videos, looking into forums for advice, or listening to different podcasts. Some of my main sources were YouTube channels like SHMUPtopia, The Electric Underground, Arctane, or Studio Mudprints, just to name a few. These are all very entertaining, high value, interesting, and knowledgeable sources you can find out there. Arctane, for example, has put together a shmup list for beginners. I will list the channels as well as the link to the beginner shmups list down in the description below for you. The first minor problem that arose for me was that I was watching and listening to so much different stuff that I was suffering from some kind of information overload, or a kind of analysis paralysis. If you don't know what that means, it's basically a term used to describe the feeling of being unable to make a decision because you've overthought a problem. It seemed that everyone had a different approach or starting point to the genre, which makes perfectly sense, as everyone has different tastes in terms of, for example, sound design, graphics, level design, or extra modes and features a game should offer. What happened to me was that I kept wishlisting different games that had been recommended all over the internet and buying them as soon as they went on sale in the Switch eShop. This led to another problem, which I created on my own, called overchoice. For those of you who don't know the concept of overchoice, it occurs when you have a lot of equally good choices, making the decision become somehow overwhelming. Having too many roughly equally good options is mentally draining because you have to weigh each option against the alternative to choose the best one. So basically, I had a good amount of games, but I couldn't decide which one to play. So I pulled out my trusty PS3, booted it up, and played Uncharted 2 instead. But that's fine because I played it for the first time, or I'm still playing it for the first time, and I really like the game, to be honest. Well, anyway, back to the shmups. Before my interest in shmups grew a few months ago, I already owned quite a few shmups, for example, Danmaku Unlimited 3, Ghostblade HD, and Rolling Gunner. I could have easily started with one of these games, but I doubted that it would be the ideal starting point for me. So what I really want to get off my chest for everyone who's struggling to get into this genre, finding the right game with the right amount of stages and modes and features and so on, is don't overthink the starting point. We all have different tastes when it comes to game design, sound, graphics, modes, and so on. So you basically need to find something you enjoy in those games, and don't be afraid to move between different games, rotate them to find the one that really clicks for you. It's all part of the learning process, and I've already learned through my rotation of games that this genre has a very steep learning curve. It is basically a choice you have to make on your own. No one can take this from you. You can just look for advices, but in the end you need to find something that really is suited for you and your tastes. And also the learning is something every one of us needs to go through by him or herself in the end. So speaking of learning, I want to get a little bit into the mindset I want to establish for myself in the future. Every time I start a shmup and go for a arcade run or practicing in training modes, I try to remind myself that I play to learn. I want to play to learn the game. I use the following example or analogy from my past for this. My first console ever was the N64, which came with Super Mario 64. When I started playing the game, I understood that Princess Peach had been kidnapped by Bowser and that I had to rescue her to finish the game. The little extra was to collect all stars, which required you to collect all 100 coins in a level, if I recall that correctly. So rescue the princess, and if you are motivated enough, just 100% the game, getting all stars. But as a child, that wasn't my goal. My goal was to find my way around the game, learn where the traps or the pits are, learn the enemy patterns to get through a level, collect stars to get to the next level or the next world, and so on and so on. I just wanted to explore the game, memorize all the dangers, and eventually beat the final boss. I essentially played to learn. It was only years later that I was more interested in beating the game 100%, so I was playing the game to beat the game. This is what I want to apply for my SHMUPS journey. In the beginning, my goal is to survive, to learn enemy patterns, and navigate the level without getting hit. Also on the lowest difficulty, probably. It's all about taking my time, enjoying the ride, getting the fundamentals down, and playing to learn. This might not make me a super player or getting me the highest scores in any game, but it might help me get the fundamentals down and improving my play step by step. Maybe in the future I might also be interested in getting high scores in certain games. Well guys, you made it through. That is all I wanted to share and talk about today. Please let me know if you had similar challenges when you got into the genre the first time, or was it totally different from what I experienced? What was your journey like? Let me know in the comments. Thank you all very much for listening and staying with me. If you liked what you heard, please consider giving this video a thumbs up. I hope you have a great day, stay healthy, and see you in the next video.